The day my permanent residence card arrived in the mail, I should have been celebrating. Instead, I was sitting on the floor of a Toronto apartment that wasn't mine, with a man who wasn't really my husband, listening to him say words that made my blood run cold. You think you're done paying me? Victor laughed, holding my PR card just out of reach. Chidinma, we're just getting started. That's when I realized I hadn't bought my freedom, I'd bought a cage with better locks. Let me take you back to where this nightmare began. Lagos, Nigeria, March 2021. I was 27 years old, living in a one-room apartment in Surulere that I shared with my cousin. I had a university degree in business administration that might as well have been toilet paper for all the good it did me in Nigeria's job market. My Canadian student visa was about to expire. I'd come to Canada in 2019 on a study permit, dreaming of a better life. I'd worked my way through a 2-year diploma program at a college in Mississauga, working under the table at a hair braiding salon, sending money home when I could, surviving on rice and canned beans. But my post-graduation work permit application was rejected. Some technicality, some paper I didn't file correctly, some bureaucratic nonsense that meant 2 years of struggle, 2 years of hope, 2 years of sacrificing everything, gone. I had 60 days to leave Canada or become illegal. 60 days to abandon everything I'd worked for, 60 days to go back to Nigeria and face my family as a failure. My mother had sold her jewelry to help pay for my school fees. My father had taken a loan he couldn't afford. My younger siblings called me our Canadian sister with so much pride. How could I go back and tell them it was all for nothing? That's when I met Victor. Actually, I didn't meet him. My friend Blessing connected us on WhatsApp. He's done this before, Blessing whispered when we met at the salon. He married a girl from Benin City 2 years ago. She got her papers, they divorced quietly, everyone moved on. He's professional. How much? I asked. 18,000. I nearly choked. $18,000? Blessing, I don't have that kind of money. He takes payment plans, she said quickly. You pay $5,000 up front, then the rest after you get your work permit. By the time you're working legally, you can pay him back. It sounded insane. It sounded impossible. It sounded like my only option. Victor and I had our first video call on a Thursday night. He was Nigerian too, Igbo like me, which made it easier somehow. He'd been in Canada for 12 years, had his citizenship, worked as a pharmacy technician. He looked normal, respectable even. Let me be clear about the terms, he said in that flat, business-like tone. You pay me $5,000 before we get married. We do the courthouse wedding, file the sponsorship application. You move in with me, immigration will check, so we need to look legitimate. How long do I have to live with you? I asked. Until you get your permanent residence. Usually 18 months to 2 years. You'll have your own room. We keep things professional. Once your PR comes through, you pay me the remaining $13,000. We wait a few months, then divorce quietly, no complications. And you won't expect anything else? I asked carefully. He smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. I'm not interested in you like that, Chidinma. This is business. I make $18,000. You get to stay in Canada. Fair exchange. I borrowed the $5,000 from 3 different people. My uncle in Lagos, a former classmate who'd made it big in the UK, and a loan shark in Toronto whose interest rates should have been criminal. We got married at Toronto City Hall on April 15, 2021. I wore jeans and a blouse. He wore a shirt and slacks. We took exactly 3 photos for immigration. No cake, no celebration, no pretending this was anything other than what it was. a transaction. His apartment was a two-bedroom in Scarborough. My room was small but clean, a bed, a dresser, a tiny desk. He'd bought basic groceries and left them in the kitchen with a note, "Help yourself. What's mine is yours for now." The first few months were awkward but bearable. We lived like polite strangers. He worked early shifts at the pharmacy, 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. I worked evening shifts at the salon, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. We barely saw each other. When we did cross paths, it was brief, cordial. "Did you eat?" "Yes. You?" "Yes, I'll be in my room." We practiced our story for immigration, how we met through mutual friends at a church event, how long we'd been dating, 8 months before marriage, what we loved about each other. He liked my laugh, I liked his kindness. All lies, rehearsed, perfected lies. Our sponsorship interview was in September 2021. I wore a dress Victor had bought me. He held my hand in the waiting room. We smiled at each other like people who were in love. The immigration officer asked us questions. "How do you take your coffee, Mr. Okafor? What's your wife's favorite food? Where did you go on your first date?" We answered perfectly. We'd studied. When we left the building, Victor dropped my hand immediately. We walked to the car in silence. As we pulled out of the parking lot, he said, "Good job, you're a natural liar." I didn't know if it was a compliment or an insult. Things started changing around month 7, small things at first. Victor started making comments about my clothes. "You're going out in that. It's a bit much, don't you think?" He started asking where I was going, who I was seeing. "You're spending a lot of time with that girl from work. Does she know about our arrangement?" He started suggesting I contribute more to household expenses. "You're living here rent-free, Chidinma. The least you could do is cover groceries." I tried to keep the peace. I paid for groceries. I came home earlier. I wore more conservative clothes, but it was never enough. By month 10, he'd started walking into my room without knocking. "This is my apartment," he said when I protested. "Technically, you're my wife. I have a right to be anywhere in my own home." I bought a lock for my door. He removed it while I was at work. "We can't have locks between married people," he said. "What if immigration shows up unannounced? What kind of marriage has locked doors?" I started sleeping with a chair wedged under my doorknob. March 2023, a year and 11 months after our courthouse wedding. The envelope came with the Canadian government seal on it. My hands shook as I opened it. Permanent residence card. Name, Chidinma Okafor. Status, confirmed. I'd made it. I was legal. I was Canadian. I was free, or so I thought. I showed Victor the card, expecting him to congratulate me, to remind me about the payment plan, to start discussing our quiet divorce. Instead, he took the card from my hands and sat down on the couch, examining it like it was a precious artifact. "So," he said slowly, "you owe me $13,000. I know, I'm working on it, I've been saving, and I can get a better job now that I have my PR. I'll have it for you in 6 months, maybe sooner." "6 months?" He laughed. "Chidinma, I've housed you, fed you, risked my own status for you for 2 years, and you think 6 months is reasonable?" My stomach dropped. "That was the agreement. You said—" "I said a lot of things." He leaned back, still holding my PR card. "But things change. Living with someone for 2 years, you get to know them. You get to know their value." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about the fact that you're worth more than $13,000 to me now." The room went cold. "I want $30,000, he said calmly, "and I want it in 12 months. "What?" I stood up, shaking. "That's not what we agreed. That's almost double." "True," he smiled, But you're not exactly in a position to negotiate, are you? You see, if I call immigration and tell them our marriage was fraudulent, they'll revoke this. He waved my PR card. And you'll be deported. All that struggle, all those sacrifices, gone. They'd investigate you too, I said desperately. You'd be in trouble. Maybe, he shrugged. But I'm a Canadian citizen with a clean record. You're a recent immigrant with everything to lose. Who do you think they'll believe? He had me, and he knew it. The next 12 months were hell. I worked 2 jobs, my salon job during the day, cleaning offices at night. I slept 4 hours a night. I ate 1 meal a day to save money. I sent nothing home, told my family I was adjusting and busy. Every month I gave Victor money, $1,000, $1,500, $2,000, whatever I could scrape together. And every month he found new ways to make my life miserable. He'd blast music at 3 a.m. when he knew I had to work at 6. He'd invite friends over and introduce me as his wife with a smirk that made my skin crawl. He'd leave messes for me to clean up. That's what wives do, isn't it? When I finally confronted him, when can I move out? The agreement was until I got my PR. He laughed in my face. The agreement was until you paid me in full. You still owe me $12,000. Until then, you live here, under my roof, under my rules. I thought about running, just disappearing. But he had copies of everything, our marriage certificate, my immigration papers, proof of our sponsorship application. He reminded me of this constantly. If you run, I'll find you, and when I do, I'll make sure you regret it. It happened on a Tuesday in February 2024. I'd finally saved $30,000, 3 years of my life, 3 years of barely surviving, 3 years of living in fear. I transferred the money to his account and waited for him to say we were done. Instead, he said, "About that divorce?" "Yes," I said, holding my breath. "I've been thinking. Maybe we should stay married a little longer." I couldn't breathe. "What?" "You're a hard worker, Chidinma. You've proven that. And having a wife, it's nice. I'm in no rush to divorce. Maybe we give it another year, see how things go." That's when I snapped. "No," I said. It came out as a whisper, but it felt like a roar. "No, we're done. I paid you. I'm filing for divorce." His face changed, darkened. "If you file for divorce," he said quietly, "I'll tell immigration you paid me. I'll show them our text messages about the arrangement. I'll destroy you. Then you'll destroy yourself too," I said, surprised by my own calm. "Maybe," he said, "but I'm willing to risk it. Are you?" I went to a lawyer the next day, not an immigration lawyer, a domestic abuse lawyer. I told her everything, the arrangement, the money, the threats, the control. "What he's doing," she said carefully, "is financial abuse and coercion. Regardless of how this marriage started, you're now in an abusive situation. We can help you." She connected me with a legal aid clinic that specialized in immigrant women in abusive marriages. They filed for divorce on my behalf, cited abuse, and applied for a protection order. Victor fought it, of course, claimed I was lying, that I was ungrateful, that he'd given me everything. But I had evidence, text messages where he demanded money, voice recordings of his threats, photos of the lock he'd removed from my door. The divorce was granted in June 2024. Victor was investigated by immigration. I don't know what happened to him. I don't want to know. I was allowed to keep my PR status. The authorities determined I'd been coerced. I live in Brampton now in a tiny bachelor apartment that's all mine. I still work 2 jobs, but now it's to rebuild my life, not to pay off a blackmailer. I send money home again. Not as much as I'd like, but enough. My family still doesn't know the truth about my marriage. They think I had a failed relationship with a nice Nigerian man who turned out to be wrong for me. Maybe one day I'll tell them. but for now, I'm just trying to breathe. If you're reading this and you're thinking about paying someone for papers, please hear me. Not everyone who offers to help you is who they claim to be. Some people see your desperation and they see opportunity. They see someone they can control, exploit, and trap. Victor didn't just want my money. He wanted my fear, my dependence, my powerlessness, and he almost got it. The $18,000 I paid him was just the entry fee. The real cost was 3 years of my life I'll never get back. 3 years of fear, abuse, and survival. Was it worth it to stay in Canada? I don't know. Ask me in 10 years when I've rebuilt what he took from me. Ask me when I can sleep without a chair against my door. Ask me when I can trust again. They say everyone has a price. Mine was $18,000 and my dignity. I got to keep the permanent residence, but I'm still paying for it. This is Eta al Real Talk, real growth, real love. Please share and follow for more.